Advice is just other people's trauma dressed up as wisdom.
It's so true. And when you listen to a podcast, you feel productive. You feel like you've done the thing. You feel accomplished without actually accomplishing anything.
Do you feel any sort of responsibility as a podcaster with millions of people that listen and learn from you every single month?
I do. The act of accumulating information, it's a form of procrastination. If your life isn't significantly better, if your business isn't farther along after consuming my content, then I failed. How do you overcome shiny object syndrome? The best way I can describe it is when parents don't give you that autonomy, it's not because they don't love you, it's because they're scared. What worked for them and what gave them a good life, that's all they want for you. But they sometimes don't understand that maybe the world works a little bit differently. It's coming from a world that doesn't really exist in the same capacity as it used to. You enabling your child to be curious, to take risks, to try things, that doesn't take an investment. That just takes...
So Scott Clare, you've done over 1,200 plus podcast episodes. You're nearing 1,400 on the main show.
Mhm.
You've interviewed 700-ish founders. But you have this quote that really stuck out to me. You wrote it a few years ago on X. Advice is just other people's trauma dressed up as wisdom. I find that really interesting, given that both of us are in this game of podcasting, where we are always focused on giving advice, distilling our experience into knowledge to give to more people, the next generation, whatever it is. Help explain to me this difference between advice being other people's trauma dressed up as wisdom and also dedicating your life to giving advice and helping people learn new information.
Right, because there's friction there. Because our entire life, both yours and mine, is dedicated to unpacking the wisdom of what people have already done. So I think we do a good service by interviewing the most incredible people on earth, all these incredible entrepreneurs, founders, and trying to figure out what worked for them, what didn't, and telling their story to somebody who's just starting out. However, at the same time, in life, you can listen to all the advice in the world. You still have to experience the thing yourself to really learn the lesson.
Mm.
So as much advice and wisdom as we try and give over via a podcast, the person listening cannot assume that they know what it's like, or they know that they're going to successfully navigate everything that happens, good or bad, without just taking action and doing it and living it. And that's where that quote, that's where advice comes from. It's someone else's action, which inevitably led to some amount of trauma through failure, lessons learned through that failure and trauma, and then that's packaged as wisdom. So it's not that it's incorrect. It's correct for that person, and it's correct for maybe potentially someone listening to it as well, but it doesn't mean that by listening to the podcast or reading the book or whatever, it's the exact same as you living it yourself. So it can point you in the right direction. It can help you navigate. It can help you expect some of the things that will happen in life or on your journey when you're building a business, or, there's advice in every realm, gym, relationship, all of that. But you still have to do it yourself and navigate it and expect to fail and come out on the other side. And that's where you will actually have the wisdom and the experience. So I think that advice is important. I think that it's good to learn, but it shouldn't be a replacement for action. And you shouldn't delude yourself that just because you listen to a podcast, you now know how to build $100 million company. For example, you can read all the books in the world about swimming, but you don't know how to swim until you jump in the water and do it. So advice is important because it helps somebody get on the right path and preemptively, navigate the things that are invariably going to come to them. But they still have to take an incredible amount of action and still be okay with an incredible amount of failure on their journey. So that's why that line about advice being someone else's sort of trauma packaged up as wisdom, it's so true and it's so real, and doesn't mean that we shouldn't learn from other people, but it just means that it's not going to be enough.
Interesting. Do you think that the amount of information we have in the world right now makes it easier to not take action?
Yes. I think that you'll hear Dan Coe speak about mental masturbation, right? Where we just learn and learn and learn and learn and we don't do. So I've thought about this a lot. Like, why is there such a gap between knowing and doing? And I think that especially for people that listen to this kind of content and listen to your podcast, I think that accumulating knowledge and wisdom and makes you feel like you've done something when you haven't actually done something. So when you
Mm,
listen to a podcast, you feel productive. When you read a book, you feel productive. You feel like you've done the thing. There's probably somewhat of a dopamine response
there is.
to you reading about starting a business, reading 10 books about starting a business. But it doesn't mean you've actually started a business. So you feel accomplished without actually accomplishing anything. And I think we're humans. I think we like dopamine and we hate cortisol. Naturally, we don't lean into uncomfortable things. So we delude ourselves and say, listen, I'm progressing in life. I'm progressing in the thing that I want to progress in by continuously like sort of reading and learning more. But we're not actually doing the thing because doing the thing is hard and uncomfortable and not fun. Whereas learning about doing the thing makes us feel like we're progressing even though we're not. So the act of like accumulating information is almost like it's a form of procrastination to a degree.
Mm. That's interesting. Do you feel any sort of responsibility as a podcaster with millions of people that listen and learn from you every single month? Do you feel any responsibility in helping them toward taking action and going from just consuming to actually putting that into the real world?
I do. An idea that I want to write about more, and I've thought about even writing a book about, is bridging the knowing doing gap.
Mm,
Is bridging the information accumulation that everybody who's listening to this is doing every single day, and then actually taking action. So that's why for a lot of the conversations that I have, uh, I actually try and get people to just not just listen, but to actually take the notes, write down an idea that's useful to them, and then go execute against that one idea.
yeah.
So I don't care if you listen to the whole podcast. I care that you listen to a point where you found something that could take your life, your business, your relationship to, the next level. You write that thing down, you take action against it, and then your life is not just in your mind a little bit better, but actually better through action in the next 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. That to me would be a win for my content. And that's actually something I come back to a lot, like why people are so shy and are so adverse to taking action. It's again, it's what we just spoke about. It's that they are much more comfortable just learning and not doing, but that's in my mind the complete wrong message. And I don't ever want to give that message that I just want you to listen to all my shows, take nothing away from it, feel smarter and have better conversations with your friends. But if your life isn't significantly better, if your business isn't farther along in a 30, 60, 90, 5-year, 10-year period after consuming my content, then I failed.
Hmm.
So that's why I speak a lot about this knowing doing gap and how do we bridge that. And I mean, there's so many books. I mean, Atomic Habits by James Clear, whatever the strategy is, consume, learn, understand, then take a small action based on what you've just consumed, and then repeat that again and again and again and again. And then over time, your life will be dramatically different.
Yeah. That knowing doing gap, that is frustration and resentment. It's interesting that a lot of the smartest people that don't take action, the people that know the most and do the less, where that gap is the biggest, they often end up being more resentful, especially toward the people, and I've felt this, that are a lot dumber with a lot more results, right?
Yeah.
I can think of a few people that are a lot probably dumber than me intellectually, but
But they are
they
more successful, make more money, they have a bigger
exactly.
business. Well, yeah, because being smart does not equal being successful. Actually, I have this issue a lot. I overthink a lot of stuff.
Mm. Tell me
So
more about that.
so when you're really smart, when like you're like very intellectual and you could accomplish anything. Like there's nothing you couldn't figure out because you are a smart person. Um, you tend to overthink everything.
Because your array of possibilities is so wide, it's like you're
Exactly.
shopping and you have all these things that you could potentially buy, and it makes making a decision harder?
I would say that, and you also think of every single worst possible outcome and scenario. So if I post and I say the wrong thing, do I get canceled, for example? Or that's a really good point. I've always thought of it from the other perspective. I've always thought of it from the perspective of the smart person assumes there's unlimited amount of risk with anything that they do, and they see all these potential negative outcomes,
Mm.
and then they don't do anything because there's like this fear that's all encompassing, all consuming, and it stops them from even taking the first step because they're seeing the thing that doesn't work out at step 10 or step 20. The other thing that you mentioned, which is more shiny object syndrome, right? Where the smart person sees so many potential opportunities. They're not even thinking about the negative, but they're thinking about, business idea one, business idea two, and business idea three, and they can't decide on any of them because they know, and they're correct, they could succeed at each one of those things. So they either do what a lot of smart people do and what a lot of entrepreneurs do is they try one, and then it's starting to grow, and then it gets difficult, and then they see another shiny object, which is another business idea, and then, well, the thing that they started is difficult, so maybe the next thing is going to be a little bit easier. So it seems like there's an opportunity there, and I'm smart, so I can figure it out. So they try the next thing, and if they had just committed enough energy to the first thing and persevered, that thing would have ended up working out. But instead, they abandoned it onto the next thing, onto the next thing, onto the next thing. And Hermosi speaks about this a lot. Over 10 years, you'll have tried 50 different businesses and none of them successful. Whereas if you just stuck with one and really just stuck it out through all the bullshit that unfortunately comes with building a business or doing anything worth doing, you would have eventually figured it out. It would have eventually been successful. So I think that smart people think too much in both directions in terms of possibility and problems. Now, I would say that how do we sort of deal with overthinking? Well, in terms of the negativity, if I start this thing, there's going to be unlimited problems that come with it. Tim Ferriss has a really good framework called fear setting. So what fear setting is you think about truly the worst case scenario that could happen. So say you want to start a business, you quit your job, you start a business, we're assuming the worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. You have no customers, you can't pay rent, God forbid, you're homeless, you steal from somebody to get some food, you end up in jail. And then the whole point is to map out like the most ridiculously, obviously exaggerated worst case scenario.
Hmm.
And when you do that, then you realize, is that really likely? Is it really likely that worst case scenario is going to happen? Because what would actually happen if the business doesn't work? For most people, they just go get a job again. That's the reality for most people. They're not going to end up homeless or in jail or on the street. They're going to be like, okay, so I tried a business, doesn't work, ran out of money, and I just got the job that I had before I started the business, and then I'm back to where I started. So that's what fear setting is. It's helping your brain understand that the worst case scenario, that when you actually map it out, is most likely not going to happen. And then it makes risk seems like a lot less risky. Now, the other thing that smart people do is what you alluded to, which is shiny object syndrome, overthinking all these possible scenarios. How do you overcome shiny object syndrome? The best way I can describe it is you look at anybody that's been successful, the way they've become successful when they first started was an incredible amount of focus on one thing. And they've put all this focus and energy on that one thing for an unreasonable amount of time. And that's what's allowed them to become successful. Not the version of Elon Musk that is doing SpaceX and Tesla and X and all these other different things. It's the first version when he's building Zip, or any entrepreneur. Like when you start out and you want to be successful, you have to focus at one thing. You have to do it for an unreasonable amount of time. And when I say unreasonable, I mean like 7, 10, 15 years. Something that seems long, but in the grand scheme of things, we live a long time. If we're ever successful at anything, then we probably will make more money at that thing than we even know what to do with. So is 10 to 15 years even that long? I would argue no. But for a lot of people when they're starting out, they want results overnight. They want immediate gratification. They want their business to work in the next 6 months or a year because of social media and whatever is telling them that that's the norm, even though it isn't. So look at the example of somebody who's been successful, who's started something, who's built it over a period of time, how much energy and attention and focus they've given one thing, and you realize, well, that's the answer. There's not a single person out there that you would look up to as an entrepreneur, and we're talking in a business context, that you would say, oh, they killed it diversifying across 10 businesses when they first started.
Yeah.
It's just, there's not a single example. So you see both of these sort of these detriments of being too smart and overthinking. By using some basic logic, we can convince ourselves to actually do the right thing, to not be too scared and to focus on the right thing. And when we aren't scared of the risks and we focus on the right thing for, again, that unreasonable amount of time, then ironically, everything ends up working out. Same with a podcast. You want to start a podcast, which is another business. You start a podcast. You don't want to diversify across podcast, and then you want to start a business on the side, and then you want to, kill it on TikTok at the same time. Like these are all different things. But if you focus 100% of your time and energy and attention on a podcast when you start out, and you do it for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, you'll find a way to make that podcast successful.
I love the quote, "The sharpest object in the world is concentrated water."
This is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. But at the same time, I talked to a woman named Jess Ma. Do you know who she is?
I don't think I do know.
Okay. So she's one of the, she has a company valued at over $1 billion. She's in her 30s. She lives here sometimes.
I should know who this is.
Yeah, she's amazing. But she's like friends with a lot of the biggest tech entrepreneurs in the world. So like, you name it, like Sam Altman. And she has done a bunch of studies, like not published or anything, but studies among these groups of founders, studying their happiness levels and their fulfillment levels. And what's really interesting is that exact thing that we just talked about, of that complete, utter dedication and focus, is correlated with less fulfillment and less happiness. And what she found was the people that are so tied to their business and the people that don't diversify their happiness, as we would talk about diversifying income streams and wealth, the people that don't have diverse happiness streams, they're the ones that are the lowest, and they actually average below average fulfillment and happiness scores in terms of like the general population in comparison. And we're talking the biggest tech entrepreneurs in the world.
Like, I'm not surprised.
So then is it worth it?
Well, that's a question you have to ask yourself. So for a season of your life, it's going to be difficult. I don't think anyone would argue that. I don't think when you're starting a business, anyone's going to say this is going to be fun and this is going to be chill. There's all these jokes about how I quit a 9 to 5 to work 24/7. This is the reality of the average entrepreneur.
Yeah.
A couple thoughts on this. The issue is when it's not just for a season of your life. It's for when it's for your whole life. That's when it becomes detrimental. But if you want to, again, cliche quote, but if you want to achieve something that no one else has ever achieved, you have to do things that no one else is willing to do, which is work 24/7. But it's not 24/7 on things that you hate. You ultimately are building something that's yours, that you love, that gives you energy. It doesn't mean that you're going to have a perfect work-life balance. You're going to have perfect relationships when you're first starting out. You're going to have the perfect gym schedule. It doesn't mean that you're going to have perfect balance across everything. It also doesn't mean you should let all those things drop. But it does mean that for a season of your life, the business, which is very time-consuming, is going to take up more than a job would.
Yeah.
And that's probably why they're unhappy during that season of their life. But you have to know when it's time to shut off that season. Maybe that means selling the business. Maybe that means that, you know what, this made some money, but it's not at the level that I want it to be at. So does it make more sense for me to just get a job because family is important to me? I don't want to be working, 20-hour days. You have to know what kind of life you want too. And building a business is a lot, and it can be part of your life for a bit, but like you have to have the average person has to have some sort of exit out of that chaos.
Interesting.
And the billionaires, they're not normal people. The reason why they're billionaires is because they never, ever transitioned out of that season of their life.
Yeah.
Like no one looks at Elon Musk and says like, oh, he has a great family relationship with all of his kids and his, baby mamas, right? But he's an incredible entrepreneur. But most people, that's not what they're going for when they start a business. They want to make some money. They want to create wealth. They want to have something that they can call their own. Most people do it so they can ironically have like a not a boss, even though if you build your business, your customers are your boss, your investors are your boss, your employees at the end of the day are your boss as well. And if you piss anybody off, it's not going to be good for you. So I think you have to understand why you're doing this, what kind of life you want to live, what's really important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like most normal people where physical health, mental health, family and relationships, spiritual health, if these are all important to you, then building a business is okay. But just understand that like it can just be for a part of your life.
Yeah. I like you saying that. And I honestly think it's so necessary to have people like yourself saying that. Cause I don't know if you're aware of like a lot of guys in my generation, they're like, dude, why would I ever like work a job when I could just start a business? You're like, what the hell are you
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah, but that's why Instagram is so messed up.
Right. Yeah. And so you saying that like being an entrepreneur, it does not mean that you live some like world-class lifestyle right away. It's almost the opposite.
Very much so. And I interview people for a living. So I'm an entrepreneur, and a lot of, at this point, I think like 95% of my friends are entrepreneurs, and every story is the same. Like life kind of sucks when you start.
Yeah.
And it can suck for like a couple years. But and I don't mean like, listen, if you go to school, you get a job, you can be making, 100,000 right out of university, have a good degree out of college. When you start a business, you're making no money. Like one of my good friends is Joseph Martin. He's the founder of BoxyCharm. He sold for 500 million. And his story is like, when I first started, he keeps talking about it was like beans and rice and ketchup, and like that was it. Like that's what you just go through shit. You don't have a social life. You're not going out. It everything, all the energy is just focused on the business, because it's very hard to create something from scratch. It has not existed before you birthed it into the world. So it takes an unreasonable amount of energy towards that thing to make it work, which for most people is very uncomfortable.
I think that another one of the biggest misconceptions I see, going back to that focus on one thing, and I've learned this from interviewing so many incredible people, busy does not equal productive.
Very much so, yeah.
And so when you say like work 24/7, do blah, blah, blah all the time, I've actually become more productive since I've started doing less, which is really interesting. And young people that have no mentor, they have no guidance, and they're just getting hustle culture messaging from Instagram and TikTok, they don't understand, which is why I think it's so easy to burn out. And it's so easy to get shiny object syndrome, because you think that you have to be working 16-hour days and that's glorified. And so you want to go to the next thing to get that easier lifestyle that you thought would happen, because everyone that's an entrepreneur on TikTok has these Ferraris at age 16 and moves to Bali and retires
But
to their
that's
parents.
bullshit. That's not real life.
Right.
But a point though. So yes, it's correct. So this is a really important, like a mental model that is very important, is like two things can be true at the same time. Why is that important? Because yes, it is important to say no to a lot. It's important to focus on high leverage activities. Busy is not productive. But to get to that point, you do have to be busy to figure out what works.
To learn it on the fly.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So if you start a business thinking, I'm going to be productive, not busy, you're shit out of luck. Like that business is not getting off the ground. Like when you're starting, you have to do a lot of everything to figure out what works, what doesn't. Bringing us back to that first thing we spoke about. You will know wisdom comes through action, right? So by doing things, it's not working out, it's not getting the results that you wanted, you've failed at that thing, you try you hire somebody, you focus on this marketing channel, whatever it is, it doesn't work out. Fine, you've learned that thing doesn't work out, and then you won't do it again. So now you'll focus on higher leverage activities. But it doesn't matter how many podcasts you listen to, how many books you read, like you really have to experience that yourself. You have to experience putting your heart and soul into a marketing strategy for 3 months and it making $0 before you will really learn that thing isn't going to work for your business. And then you have the luxury of focusing on high leverage, high value activities, the productive things that will actually move your business forward. Some people, again, to your point, they always think that busy is productive, and it's not. But I think the smartest entrepreneurs, they start off busy and then they like slowly eliminate the shit that doesn't work. And then the truly best entrepreneurs are the ones that can understand that they have the highest leverage activities that they're responsible for. They delegate or they hire everything else. And they do have time on their calendar.
Yeah.
This is where a business moves into more of something that is probably originally what you wanted it to be. But to get to the point like where you have like a little bit more balance in your life, where you have free time for family, for relationships, for yourself. But to get to that point, it's like a couple years of busy, chaotic, trying
Yeah.
shit, things not working, and then eventually you have wisdom, and then that wisdom lets you sort of operate a little bit smarter.
I had a friend the other day that came up to me and told me how much this show means to him right now, how much value he's getting out of it, how much he's learning, and he wanted to show me his favorite episode of the show. So he pulls out his phone and he pulls up YouTube, and when he gets to my account, he wasn't subscribed. Now, he thought it was so embarrassing. I kind of found it hilarious, but it prompted me to look at the statistics, and I found out that 62% of you are not subscribed to the channel. Now, that's all right. I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but if you get value out of the content that me and my team are putting out there for you, if you feel like this is improving your life and the Grateful Podcast is having an impact on you and you want it to keep getting better, then the one simple free thing that you can do for me and my team is hit that subscribe button. It shows the world that we have value to give, and it helps us continue to show up better each and every week, bringing on better guests, increasing the production quality, and putting out more content for you guys to continue to show up better in the world for tomorrow. So if you feel like this has any value for you, I would encourage you just to hit that button. And I really, really appreciate the impact that we're having on the world together. You're a part of this journey, and that's one of the coolest things. You have made an impact by being here, by sharing the knowledge and the wisdom that you gain, and by applying it into the world and creating a ripple effect. So thank you. Now let's get into the episode. Have you read The Alchemist? Okay, I just finished rereading it. I read it every single year. Anytime anyone younger than me or around my age asks me for advice, I point them to that book. And the quote that's coming up for me is The Alchemist tells the boy at the end, everything you need to know, you've learned on your journey.
That's very wise. It's a good book. It's a very good book. But that's entrepreneurship. That's entrepreneurship. So everything that we talk about on this podcast, you're going to listen to it, and hopefully you'll take one idea and you'll apply it to your life, and you won't just listen to it to consume and then, in one ear out the next. But you still have to do. But you still have to take action. Even if we were going to be a little bit more tactical, like right now we're talking in mental models and mindset and talking about different ideas. But if we were going to say, hey, to grow a podcast, for example, you mentioned I have almost 1,400-ish total episodes on the main podcast, and I've done about 700 interviews. So, okay, why is he doing that? Why is there 1,400? Well, because what I do is I take my full length interviews, and then I find the best parts of those interviews, and then I turn them into shorter individual episodes. And then, for example, if I have a really great guest that has come on, it's in a full length interview, I'll take a 10-minute clip out of that, and then I'll re-upload it onto the channel as a short 10, 15-minute segment, like the best part of that interview, edit it into like a single thought or a single idea, repost it. So not only am I now sort of resurfacing that guest on the podcast, but it's pushing people back to the original full-length interview, which could have been 2 years ago.
Right.
Super tactical. Okay. That's worked for me. You're going to try it for yourself. Maybe it's going to work. Maybe it's not going to work. But the point is, like, even if you listen to that, now I'm pointing you in the direction about how to sort of repurpose old content. So you start to get these ideas, but you still have to do it yourself and figure out what works, and figure out if you can find a good 10 to 15-minute clip in that, 2-year-old Gary Vee interview that's going to work right now. So wisdom, again, that's from me, my lived experience from trying all these different types of content, but it's going to point you in the right direction. It's going to give you some ideas about how to think about content, but you still have to do it yourself. And you start with the idea that I gave you, but then you massage it and you transform it into your own idea, how it's going to work for you. Maybe you don't do that every week. Maybe you do that every month, or maybe you take a old full podcast episode and you re-upload it every 2 years, and you just tell people this is like a legacy episode. I know podcasters do that as well. So the point is, we're talking about wisdom, which is my successes and failures sort of packaged up and sort of given over to you now. But that's where you start from. And then you take it, you try it, then you learn from it, then you iterate, then it becomes your own strategy. But what you're not having to do if you listen to enough people, is start with like a blank slate and no information. So that's why I think like wisdom is useful, but wisdom without action is useless.
So you're planting a seed, but I have to grow it myself.
Very much so.
Interesting. What's your biggest failure? Where do you think in the past? I mean, you've had this podcast for 7 years now, 1,400 episodes. You get millions of downloads a month.
All the things that we took, like every negative attribute that can be associated with a person who overthinks, who's also an entrepreneur, like I've done it. I've thought about worst case scenario. I've not posted content. I've shiny object syndrome the shit out of like what I've been working on. I've started 6 businesses at once that haven't worked out. I've tried different podcasts. I've tried different newsletters. I've tried different content formats. I've sort of like followed things that and put content out that really wasn't my style or that I enjoyed creating just because I thought it was trendy or it would go viral. Like, so I don't have like thank God, a massive failure. Like, oh, I did this thing and it was like the end of the world. But everything that we're talking about that, funny enough, I also had heard from other people on other podcasts and reading other books not to do, I still did myself.
That's an important thing for everybody to hear.
I don't have one huge failure. I have repeat failures, and I will continuously have repeat failures for the rest of my life that hopefully I learned from and have turned me into the man that I am today. And I think that I'm a better man today than I was a year ago, and I was, 2 years ago. But hopefully I'll be an even better man in, 5 and 10 years because I'll keep learning. I fail every single day. Everybody does. I think some failures are probably more public or, a little bit bigger than the stuff that I've gone through. And, knock on wood, hope to God, I never deal with anything that bad. But the reason I am successful is because I've failed so much.
My friend Allison told me this crazy statistic the other day. 95% of people believe that they're self-aware, while only 10 to 15% really are. And this gap is incredible. And I have only recently started to understand how important self-awareness really is in both internal and external success. Most of the most successful people that you talk to only focus on what they're so good or so great at, and they leave behind all the things that they suck at. But I know that you know someone in your life who is so terribly unself-aware, if that's even a word. I know that you know the person that doesn't understand how they show up in the world around them, how they're experienced by the people around them, or what they are good and bad at. And heck, that person might even be you, which is why I really want to get Interview into your hands. Interview is a software that allows you to take a self-assessment and compare it to anonymous feedback of the people closest to you, and it allows you to close the gap in self-awareness so you can get clear on what you're good at and how you show up in the world for the people around you and yourself. Now, when people become more self-aware, they're able to focus in on the things that they're great at and achieve more tomorrow while still being grateful for what they have right now, because they're able to get more bang for their buck in their relationships and with the people around them. So if you want to understand how you show up in the world and how you're experienced by the people around you, go to interview.com, INNERVUE.com, and use the code GRATEFUL20 for 20% off a tier 2 assessment on Interview, plus a complimentary coaching session with an interview coach to become more self-aware and achieve and be more grateful tomorrow. All right, let's get back to the episode. I love that. Have you ever doubted yourself?
I have. Not as much as some people do. This is more a commentary on parenting than anything. I was very blessed. I had parents that made me feel like I could take on the world. And that was huge. And that is an advantage that not everybody has. And I'm well aware of that. And if you don't have, if you are a parent, understand that you enabling your child to be curious, to take risks, to try things, that doesn't take an investment. That just takes creating a psychologically safe place for that kid to explore the world is the best thing you can ever give them. That's what my parents gave me. They never said no to anything, how stupid an idea was. They always supported, even if they didn't understand what I was trying to figure out with, starting this business or what do you mean you're starting a podcast? What even is that? Like, why,
Yeah.
why do I see your face on YouTube? I don't get what you're doing for a living. But they never said it's stupid. It's a bad idea. We don't support you. And that was huge.
Hmm.
Now, if you don't have parents that give that to you, that's a gift. And I think that there's a lot of people whose parents don't, not because of ill intent, just because the way that we are raised and the way that our parents look at the world and what worked for our parents is very different than what works for us. And I speak a lot about how the playbook of an individual going through life for somebody, I'm 36, you're 19, the world is much different now. So how we look at work and even entrepreneurship that was not so sexy 20 years ago, and how we look at making money and how we look at how we want to live our lives and raise a family, it's a little bit different than the world that our parents grew up in. So when parents don't give you that autonomy, it's not because they don't love you, it's because they're scared that what you're trying won't work out. So sometimes they hold
Yeah.
on like a little bit too tight because, again, what worked for them and what gave them a good life, that's all they want for you. But they sometimes don't understand that maybe the world works a little bit differently, right? We don't have the same pensions that our parents had. We don't have the same job security that our parents had. Technology is changing at, of course, technology changed during our parents' lifetime, but it's changing at an exceptionally rapid pace. So the way that we structure our lives and our work and our families, and now we're more transient. We travel to different cities, and we don't just stay in the same place where we were born. And cost of living is up, and no one's getting a house anymore. Everyone's renting condos. Like everything is slightly shifted. So when parents say, go to school, get this job, marry this person, whatever it is, it's coming from a world that doesn't really exist in the same capacity as it used to. So why I'm saying that is because if your parents don't give you the psychological safety to explore and to try things, that can really hurt your confidence in doing something that you have no reference point on how to do. Like when I started a podcast, I didn't have a reference point on how to start a podcast. I just had sort of the confidence that my parents gave me to try things and to fail. That's all I had. I didn't have like a podcasting uncle or some shit. So when you have that confidence, then it's easy to go try the thing because you know that everybody who you love is supporting you. But if you don't have that confidence and your parents aren't supporting you, you have to look for confidence in yourself. It's a slight shift, but it's very doable. And I think that this is where if you're trying something, the people who are closest to you are not supportive of it, and you get the little bit of imposter syndrome as to like, why should I even be doing this thing? What I would recommend you do is look at how successful you've been across your life to that point and how many times you've tried things, smaller things that have worked out. Ask the person on a date, applied for the job, got hired, and you'll find that over the course of almost anyone's life, the amount of times they've won and been successful at small risks that they've taken on far outweighs the times that they failed to an enormous degree. However, as humans, we usually focus on the failures, but every single day we win in a job. We win constantly. If you ask somebody out, you usually have maybe some bad dates, but a lot of really good dates. And eventually, you end up dating somebody and whatnot. So I think that if you look at all the past wins that you've had in your life, that should give you the confidence that maybe the next risk, there's a very high likelihood that will work out as well.
What I find among my peers, being 19, being young, people struggle to find those wins. People struggle to find anything that they've really done that they can
That's
be
crazy
truly
to me.
proud of.
That's so crazy to me. Like how do you struggle to find wins when you show up to your job, you perform at your job, you get paid, you get bonuses, you close a deal, like you go to the gym, you have a great, like every single day is like unlimited stacked wins. Literally. How many days? So we're talking to somebody who's younger, who's like, they're working a job and they're going to school. Like that's the average life of, okay, so how many days did you get fired from your job versus kept your job and got a promotion or a bonus or something good happen? How many days did you go to school and fail a test versus you did well on the test, you did well on the project, the paper killed it? How many days when you were dating somebody were great, the date was great, you had such a fun time versus when you got dumped? Like we pay attention to these. I was fired, I failed a test, I got dumped. But these are like a fraction of our life. realistically. Most days we killed it at the job, we killed it at school, we killed it in the relationships, we killed it in the gym. How many days did we really like get injured in the gym? Maybe like once every 3 years, right? Like we focus on so much negative because the positive and the wins become routine because they happen so much. We don't even pay attention to the wins in our life. If you truly like, listen, if you show up every single day and you perform at your job, that means that they see value in you, and you technically, that is a win. You are successful. If you are not showing up and performing at your job, you're fired. If you're not showing up and performing at your relationship, you're dumped. Like, you just existing for most people is a steady stream of competence and wins. And people have to carry that confidence into the next thing. If somebody chooses you every day, whether or not it is an employer or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, like, you are winning every single day. And I don't think people understand that enough. I think people just focus. I think it's probably some sort of evolutionary safety mechanism to focus on the negative things that happen in our life so that we don't end up repeating them. But that's what we remember, even though that is usually not how our day goes. We do not get dumped every day. Do we not get fired every day? Do we not fail on tests every day? Do we not have shitty gym sessions every single day? We generally have like just wins across the board with almost everything we do. And we just don't pay attention to those things. So when every single day you win, every single day you show up, every single day people choose you as opposed to the alternative, why would the next risk you take on be any different? It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it definitely doesn't mean you're going to fail at it. That's the reframe and the shift. I think that whether or not you give that as a gift to yourself or your parents give that as a gift to you, that is the prerequisite for success. You have to have that mindset going into it, because when you have that mindset, when you think there's a very low likelihood that I'm going to fail at this thing, you don't stop, you don't quit, you don't give up, and you just keep doing it. And you know what's funny? When you keep doing something, you eventually figure it out.
Yeah.
It also means that you don't do things irresponsibly either. I don't recommend people quit their job when they haven't figured out how to make money with their business. Like, I don't think you should do things that set you up for failure. I think you should still set yourself up for success. Like, stack the odds in your favor. So if you want to start a business, which is probably what people listening to this are thinking about, like, that's the risk in their life, right? Start a business. Okay. So stay with your job, have an income coming in, learn the skill set that you can monetize from 5 to 9 or on the weekends. And when that starts working out and you can start to replace your income, then you can start to quit your job and go all in on your business. And now with AI, as well as just hiring people globally, there's so many different points of leverage you can use to grow a business with a fraction of the time, people, resources, energy that it took even 10 or 15 years ago. So you really have no excuse at all. Because, I mean,
Just a quick note from me, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify and you've enjoyed this episode so far, the one thing that you could do to create a better podcast for the future, yes, you're a part of this, is to leave a review. Leave a 5-star review or a 4-star if you think I deserve it. I hope I'm not below that. And just tell the world what you really think of this podcast, how it's supported you, how it's helped you grow, what you've learned. And it would also help me just understand how I can continue to show up better for the world and create a better place for people to learn and grow. Thank you.
with AI, to be quite honest, I mean, even, pre-AI, you could still hire great talent. You didn't have to hire full time. You could hire in different parts of the world to help you sort of scale a business with a little bit of a cheaper overhead. But now with AI, your overhead's basically gone to zero. So it's just a matter of testing things out until they work. And then once they work, then you can quit the job and go all in on your business. Doesn't matter what the business is, whether or not you're consulting or you're building a software product or you want to, whatever it is. So mindset plus, frame the fact that frame your mind right, understand that you're a highly competent person, that you are successful in most things that you take on in your life. It will help you develop a better relationship with risk, and then stay in the game long enough by using all the tools and resources available to you. Don't set yourself up for failure. Don't quit your job when you have, $2,000 in the bank and your rent next month is $3,000. Like, that's not a smart way to start a business. But if you do all these things right, in my mind, it's very hard for you to fail. It doesn't mean that the business that you have in 10 years is going to look the exact same as the one that you start tomorrow. But if you stay in the game, I'm telling you that you can build a business that will work out and you will survive and it will all be okay. But anyways, this is why I also think that one thing I speak about a lot is you can learn all the tactics in the world, but if you don't get your mind right about starting a business, none of it matters. None of it matters. And I would say that, every single person who I've interviewed would probably agree with me as well, because if you have the right mindset, you set yourself up for success and then you'll figure the tactics out on the way.
Yeah. I love that. I love the idea that we are winning every single day. We're also failing every single day. You've said both of those at the same time, that dialectic thinking is so important in success going forward. But I do think, I was trying to think about why my generation fails to recognize those successes they have every single day.
I would say comparison.
I think that's one of them. I do. But I also do think that there's some type of internal awareness that they're not going all in on anything. And so there's this like really potent like half committing, half-assing shit that my generation does. I mean, I've done it forever. I have friends that have done it forever where like they start something for really a status play, and it's less of like they don't commit their full selves to it. And they know like I could be doing more, and that eats away at their confidence. So even if they may be achieving somewhat well on a test, they know that like I could have tried harder on that. I'm not putting my full into it. And I think that does erode confidence, and it undermines whatever results you may be getting, because you know internally with your own internal compass, like that wasn't my best.
You know what that could be? It could be there's so much optionality in this world. There's endless lives that we can choose. It's almost like macro shiny object syndrome. Like I don't know what I want my life to look like, so I'm not actually committing to any particular vehicle.
That's it.
To achieve the end result.
That's it. Because we can see every single possibility on social media nowadays. Well, we can see like, oh, people are succeeding at, or they're like, whatever, the travel people that are like just travel influencers. They're like, I'd love to do that. Oh, a podcast? I'd love to do that. Oh, I'd love to start a cool company. Oh, I'd love to be a doctor. Or like all these things at the same time.
They see examples of somebody who they consider their peer to achieve the thing, and they're like, well, technically I could do that, but I could also do this, and I could also do this, and I could also do this. So it's like macro shiny object syndrome. Too many options, but also that paired with comparison means that people don't have true direction in their life. So what they default to is what is going to make me look the coolest, because now I'm not actually doing it because I care about it. I'm doing it because of how it makes me look to all of my peers. So you know you can accomplish anything. You know you can be anything. That's great. But you don't actually know what you want. So you're like, okay, let me default to the thing that looks the coolest. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a travel blogger, vlogger. I want to be whatever. I want to be a doctor because it makes me look cool. So when you don't have a good reason for doing it, you're never going to be able to put 100% of yourself into it. So that's really what it comes down to. You're going to half-ass it because it's not for the right reasons. By the way, any of the choose your own adventure outcomes are all a lot of hard work. All more work than we ever expect them to be. So when you start it, you're like, cool, I want to be a travel blogger. And you realize that it's actually a lot of work to be a travel blogger. And it's not that much fun. So you half-ass it. And then you're mad at yourself for half-assing it. And then you're like, well, is this actually what I want to do? I don't even know. I did it because I wanted to be in Santorini taking pictures and it looked so beautiful. But it turns out that it's actually a lot of work. I have to figure out how to be, a salesperson and a video editor and a graphic designer and a copywriter. And I'm trying to close all these deals and I have no cash flow coming in. And you realize that all the good travel bloggers that you look up to have been doing it for like 10, 15 years. And you're like, how do I get started? And you feel like, well, is this actually what I wanted? Or is this just because people on Instagram would think that I'm cool because I'm traveling a lot? So you have no conviction in what you're doing.
The other thing is it's really confusing for parents to understand that like being a travel blogger might be actual hard work.
So yeah, so you're not getting support from the people who you
Hmm.
love the most. See, when I started this podcast, uh, and I'd ask you the same question, but I have so much conviction in this type of content, in taking stories from people who have figured something out in life and trying to teach those stories to somebody who's just starting out, because I don't want their life to be as stressful as it probably is without that knowledge. Like I have so much conviction in that process, and not just conviction through the medium. Like what gives me energy and what lights me up genuinely is when I teach somebody something, like, to say it super simply, but like when somebody is like at point A, and whether or not it's me talking to them or they consume a little bit of my content and there's like an unlock, and then it lets them hit, you know, point B, point C, point D, point E, and it lets them just like progress through life. And because of one little thing that I mentioned to them, or one little thing that I experienced, or one thing that a guest on my show has learned that helps them navigate a difficult situation, like that to me always lights me up. I've loved teaching people from when I first, like my first job ever was coaching tennis, like coaching and helping people and guiding people who are struggling. And you see them when they're fresh and they start, and then they spend some time with you, and then by the end of camp, or by the end of the summer, by the end of like, like the 6 months of lessons, they have like considerably improved. That to me is super fucking fulfilling. Like I love that shit. So I had massive amounts of conviction when I started my podcast that it doesn't matter how long it would take, it doesn't matter how long I had to do it for. Like I just knew that this is what lit me up, and it was like the value that hopefully I could give to the world. But I don't think the person, the individual who's sort of flaking on travel blog, I don't think they have that much conviction.
No.
I think they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They're not doing it because they think like this is a gift that I have. I have access to these cool entrepreneurs. I'm able to tell their stories. They're just saying, I want to do this because it seems cool, and it seems like something that my friends would, envy if I posted social media pictures of me with a Lamborghini, or me traveling to all these cool places in the world, which is like the wrong reason to do anything.
Yeah.
It's just as much the wrong reason as if you start a business to make money, just to make money. Like to start anything just for validation, or just to make money, or just to seem cool, which I guess is the same as valid. Like you're not going to be able to bridge the gap between starting it being hard, and ironically, you actually achieving those things and getting the things. Like if you start it for the wrong reasons, it'll be too much work for you. You will not persevere. If you start it for the right reasons, you will get all the money and the fame and the whatever you want. But that's on the other side of this huge chasm of no fame, no money, a lot of anxiety and stress, and all these like super surface level reasons why people start anything. It's not enough to carry you across that gap.
We actually have pretty incredible parallels in our stories. Where
Really?
my first jobs were coaching baseball and climbing.
That's
And
so
so
funny.
I had conviction that I was really good at teaching people and helping people, especially younger than me,
Yeah.
learn lessons. And a lot of what I did in both of those things wasn't just the like, this is the technique of how you're going to reach this hold, but this is the mindset that you have while you're on the wall. Or this isn't how, I was a catching specific coach. This isn't
Yeah.
how you're going to block the ball. This is the mindset you're going to have to time it right and line your body up in the right position. And so I love what you said about having conviction before you even started the podcast, that you were able to help people learn something and apply that in their lives and take them from point A to B to C to
Yeah.
D, right? And so you already had the focus on the input and the value that you were going to provide.
And the
And
podcast is just the medium to get there.
right.
Yeah.
And so I've talked to, I want to bridge this gap where I've talked to Alan Stein Jr. and Jim Murphy recently.
Mhm.
So Alan Stein Jr. coached with, Kobe Bryant. He coached Kevin Durant from age 15 years old, waking up at 4 a.m. to train him. Steph Curry when he was 16, like some of the most legendary basketball players in history. Jim Murphy is currently coaching number one golfer in the world, has coached the mental game behind a bunch of the biggest NFL athletes. The parallel between them is neither of them ever used the word winning. They focus completely with their clients on the inputs that you have, and then winning just becomes a byproduct.
Mhm.
And so you, before you started your podcast, you were focused on that transformation that you knew you could already achieve. You were convinced you could achieve it because you had in another form, with tennis,
Yeah.
right? And it's similar to me. And I am not the most successful podcaster in the world by any means, but in a year and a half, I've grown pretty far.
This
And
is a great
this,
podcast. I love it. I mean, I've not only been the host asking tons of questions, but I've also been on a whole bunch of podcasts, and this is an incredible podcast. Your questions are really, really good.
thank you.
So like, don't doubt yourself. Like,
I don't. It's kind of performative humility, if I'm gonna be honest. But
That's fine.
I know I'm good.
No, it's
But
very good.
what I mean to say by that is, I think those people that haven't done something previously where they have the evidence, they can be convicted that they can provide that value. It makes it easier to focus on the end result. Whereas if you've already shown yourself that, like, oh, I can provide transformation for someone, that value, if you've already showed yourself, I'm a great freaking travel influencer, whatever that means.
But I think you just have to go back to, like, you said that if people haven't sort of discovered that previously in their life, I think everybody has. I think everybody knows what lights them up and gives them energy. I mean, like, go back to like what you like to do as a kid.
Yeah.
And find a way to create a life or a business or some sort of way to make money around that thing that lit you up. Like, if you genuinely enjoy travel, then that's what you should focus and spend your time on. If you a practical joker and you were like the class clown, like, fine, go make content around that. There's like, if you love dance, if you love sport, if you love teaching, like, there's always something that lit you up as a kid, and we repressed all that shit to become an adult. So all I'm saying, to be happy and be fulfilled in life, and this is going to go back to your point where, a lot of entrepreneurs are unhappy and unfulfilled. I mean, I would say that they're not happy and not fulfilled just because of the incredible, immense amount of work that they're doing. But I would say that there probably is a level of satisfaction underlying that stress, that the person who repressed what lights them up as a kid to sort of work a 9 to 5 that is deemed to be like a good job probably doesn't have. Like that Sam Altman, for example. I don't think he hates what he does. I think he's probably not super fulfilled because he's basically all encompassed with work. But I think he would like die inside if he worked a corporate job.
Yeah.
Like, something about what he's doing is innately energizing, or he wouldn't be doing it. I don't think you can. And sometimes the thing that lights you up is love of the game, is love of business. I know people that just love business.
Yeah.
They love figuring it out. It's like a chess match. They just want to win. But that's what lights you up. You love strategy. You love problem solving. You love winning. You're a highly competitive person. But that could be the thing that lights you up. But a lot of time we repress the things that give us energy and light us up and make us happy and fulfilled in a professional sense, to, again, like, work a job or to fall in line with what our parents want or what we feel is like the safe, predictable route. So I don't know. I think that if somebody is lost and doesn't know what to do with their life, go back to what you like to do as a kid and find a way to build a life around that.
Yeah. I love that. I also think like a big takeaway from this for young people is just do more shit. I mean,
Yeah, you got to explore too. You got to explore. And if you hate it, kill it.
yeah. I mean, I think that for me, I've done a lot of stuff. And like, even when I mean, I'm 19. I've lived abroad for 2 years of my life.
Yeah.
I've been a part of a startup. I've worked as a climbing coach, as a baseball coach. I'm now consulting for Fortune 500 companies with a mentor. I'm like, I've done a lot of shit, and
Yeah, you have.
that's helped me figure out this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And talk from a place where I feel like I can start to teach and mentor, because I've experienced stuff, and that wisdom, as the alchemist said, you've learned everything you need to in your journey.
Going
And
back to that, that's true.
I think the simplest takeaway to like simplify it is just go out and do stuff.
Yeah. See, some people are more clear on what they enjoy doing. I was always clear on what I enjoy doing because it showed up in every single job that I ever did. Like, you always, like, I mean, for me, I always defaulted to like the coach or the trainer or even if it wasn't by job title, I'd be the one who'd be like, hey, I can like train the new guy.
Yeah.
Like, I just like doing it. I genuinely like doing it. I don't know why. I've always just done it. For example, if somebody has 20, 30 years of career under their belts and they have no idea what gives them excitement in life anymore, yes, trying a whole bunch of shit can help, even if you're younger. But I would say that when you're younger, you still at least have like a little bit of understanding of what you enjoy doing.
Right.
I'm talking about people that have been like, they've repressed what they actually like for so long that they've completely forgotten.
Right.
I mean, this is like the Gary Vee message too. He's like, it's never too late. Just try shit. This is exactly what you're talking about. Just try shit, see what you enjoy doing. And whatever it is that you enjoy doing, you can find a way to build a life with that thing or that idea or that whatever. You can build a business around it. But yeah, I like that. Just try a lot of stuff. Just try a lot of stuff. And then, once you do find something you enjoy doing, you don't stop trying different things. Right? You still always experiment. You never stop. So even with, like, for example, the podcast, I'm in it. I'm living and breathing podcasting every single day. I love it, but I'll still try different formats. I'll try different questions. I'll try different guests. I still try and experiment and explore just to see if there's like, a certain format that I like a little bit better. Or, maybe I start with a really strong quote, or maybe I don't. Maybe I just, shoot the shit with the guest at the beginning and see which one creates a better conversation. Does it help if I travel to their office versus if they come down to Miami and they come into my studio? Like I always experiment. I just experiment within the confines of the thing that already I enjoy doing.
I mean, I'm at that point right now where I'm still, or I'm going to be experimenting forever, but I'm experimenting a lot. Like I've now figured out how to punch above my weight, how to interview really well, how to get guests to come on my show. Like that are most podcasts at my size are not getting the guests that I'm getting on my show.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I figured that part out. And now it's like, all right, I want to get more views. So now I have a team and we're experimenting around that and we're making small, steady progress. And like a year ago, I would have beat myself up. Like I haven't figured it out yet. And it's like, all right, we're 3 months into posting every a day with a team. Like we're making progress. We've already 3x our views per month. Like all of this stuff. And we're experimenting constantly and trying to get data, like think like a scientist,
But a lot of people who are creatives, they find something that works for them and maybe worked for them 5 or 10 years ago, and they never change. So it's like you never like this is why Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore. This is why Kodak didn't take advantage of the fact that they had the first digital camera and they lost that battle too. Like you have to, even if you're succeeding at something, you still have to disrupt yourself.
That's important.
Very important. This is why Jubilee, who does the 1 versus 10 podcast, are killing it right now. And they're growing faster than anyone. It's a new style, new format, super different than what everyone else is doing. This is why Acquired, with their 4-hour sort of company dissections, that podcast format killed it. And they grew faster than everyone else. Now, you can still do a traditional format like Stephen Bartlett with Diary of a CEO or Chris Williamson with Modern Wisdom. They're a more traditional interview style. But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't hurt to disrupt yourself.
Yeah.
And try new things, even if you've already figured out something that works. Like Jubilee, for example, I'm pretty sure they were doing just standard interviews for a long time. And then what really blew up their channel was this 1 versus 10 format.
Those are interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's somebody who's they've been on YouTube for forever, by the way. They've been on YouTube for a very long time. They were doing, I'm sure 10, 15 years on YouTube. I can't remember exactly, but a very long time. They've tried every type of content under the sun. And now this is like the most current version of their content, but that's new. No one else is doing it, but now people are copying them. So my point is, even if you found something that works, even if you are living a life that like truly fulfills you, you enjoy the business that you're building, you should still try and disrupt yourself and improve and modernize and grow and do things differently, because there's a shelf life on everything. There's always a shelf life.
That's important.
So I highly recommend, unless you are truly done with whatever it is you've built and you no longer want to do it, every once in a while, try and disrupt yourself, and whether or not it's your content or your business.
That was my stagnation point. And I think what helped me is getting around people that are way ahead of me. And because when I started college, I was like years ahead of everybody in terms of career path and all of that. And so people would look up to me, and it made me get kind of, I guess, complacent for a few months in what I was doing.
Big fish in small pond is not a good thing.
Right. And then I started to meet more people like yourself, like some of the guests I've had on my show. and hang out a lot more with people making significant amounts of money
Yeah.
and doing way more plays, and even young people doing way better objectively than I am in a lot of these ways. And that helped me restructure. Like, I need to get uncomfortable again. I'm going to
Yeah.
grow again. I'm going to keep taking more risks. And just that risk taking initiation behavior, I think, is a great place to
It is.
leave people with today.
I think that that's smart. I mean, the friends that I value the most, they're the ones that appreciate what I do for a living, but always, push me to do more, to do different, or to try new things. Like, even friends that I mean, this is again cliche. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, which is true. But I'm very fortunate that, and I actually try and encourage it as much as possible when I sit down with friends and we're shooting the shit about work and what's going on. They're all smart people. And I always ask, like, like, if you look at all my stuff, like, what would you do differently?
Yeah.
Because I respect their opinion. And doesn't mean they're all content creators. I take advice from content creators as well. But I always ask people who are not in content, like, as a consumer, what would you like somebody to do that no one's ever done before? And I take that to heart. Like, I really, really take that to heart. I think that's how I think the best content creators trust that they know that they can do good work, but they always try and evolve. And I think that evolution comes from smart people that you surround yourself with that always challenge you. And this is like the best kind of friend to have in any situation, by the way,
Yeah.
not just with content, with your business,
Everything.
with everything. You always want people that are forcing you to think differently, that think definitely different than you, that challenge you, that aren't afraid of telling you that you're doing something. Well, it's nice if they say you're doing something good, but ultimately the best feedback is when they say, hey, this was stupid. You shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have had this guest on. That was a dumb question. I didn't like this
Right.
episode. This episode fell flat. Like, if people tell me that, that's like, you're a friend for life. It's
Yeah.
very useful to me. And I think that, another thing, maybe this is like the last sort of thought, wherever you want to go with this, but this, it just comes back to people need to be more comfortable being uncomfortable, getting negative feedback and getting criticism. People need to be more uncomfortable taking risk. Even if the risk isn't that big, it's still, you have to jump into risk. I think that if we just sort of uncomfortable with a little bit more of the difficult things in life, I think that leads to a much better life at the end of the day.
Totally agree. Scott, this has been such a pleasure, man.
Likewise. Thank
I'm
you.
so grateful you took the chance to come out here. I know you're a busy man, doing 20 interviews next few weeks here in New
It is
York.
busy, but this was a good day. This was it was, like I said, it was serendipity that we ended up in New York, and this was and I love your podcast, and I love the questions you ask, and I'm honored to be on. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Awesome. Everybody, this has been the Grateful Podcast. We did it! We made it to the end of the episode. Thank you so much, and thank yourself for showing up and committing to yourself to better yourself and your life for you and the people around you tomorrow. It's really impressive. I know with the attention spans that we have today, showing up for an hour or however long today's episode was is really impressive. So thank you. I have one ask for you. Before we move on from our days together, who did you think of today while you were listening, while you were watching? Who popped into your head during the best moment of today's episode? Whoever it is, you can send a time-stamped version of this episode with that certain moment that made you think of them to that person. And when you do that, they're going to feel so seen by you. They're going to feel so loved by you. I know it can be a little weird, but you can just say, hey, this made me think of you. And when you do that, you create a ripple in the world. You serve. You make this world a better place. So I encourage you, if you had someone that popped up today that you think of with this episode, who you think this could help better their lives and the lives of the people around them, then please send this over to them. Create a ripple. Make an impact. That's how we change the world. One person at a time. That's my goal. I want to change your life. I want you to go and change others. That's how a legacy is built. So I thank you for showing up today for yourself and the people around you to make this world a better place. Don't forget that no matter what you're going after, what gap you have between where you are and where you want to be, no matter how big it is and no matter how much anxiety that might create for you or how much excitement that creates for you, there's a present moment. Stay here. Be grounded. Be grateful for all the things and the people you have around you as you continue to go and serve the world and make this world better. I'm proud of you, and I'll see you next week. Stay grateful, stay hungry. This has been the Grateful Podcast. Thank you.